So in today's video, I really wanted to talk about submission, what it means on a biblical standpoint. A lot of people think that the Bible is misogynistic, which is completely untrue. There's many scriptures in there that entails that a man and a woman are equal, but there is still a natural order in God's plan. One thing I do want to emphasize that is 100% true, that males weaponize the Bible a lot and used a lot of the verses and scriptures in the Bible in order to make women submit in a negative way. But it is because of men's desires and selfishness that they ruin the natural order that God intended us to have. We'll talk about that a little bit later on, but I want to talk about me personally and my journey through submission and how I become so open to being submissive after domestic violence, sexual assault, absence of the paternal figures. This conversation is more so for the women because I've been on both sides of the argument about submission. I want to talk about the Black community. I want to make a significant distinction here that I am not a part of the Nation of Islam and I am not a Hebrew Israelite. I believe in the Bible thoroughly and I'm a disciple of Jesus. Sometimes as women, we don't like to submit because for generations we have witnessed the males in our family not be the leaders that they need to be. So let's think about grandma, let's think about mama. Some of them have very masculine energies because they had to make things happen because of the absence of the male figure in the household. Now, because of the absence of the male figure in the household, that doesn't mean that everything has to stop. She still has a child to feed. She still has children to raise. This is where it comes to the natural order. Presence of a father in the household is significant, and when you don't have that, you're stuck with everything, taking care of the bills, working, taking care of the children, raising them, making sure they're doing right. At one point, you're so overwhelmed and overstimulated with everything that you have to do as a mother that you have become hardened, you have become masculine, and it was never in your nature to do that. Parenthood takes two. Marriages takes two. And this is another thing that we see in the Black community. He may be a provider, but he is not there on a emotional or parental level. Like, he may pay for the bills and everything or provide groceries, but what are you teaching your son? What are you teaching your daughter? Consequences. Are you helping discipline the kids? When a person has went through things such as domestic violence, sexual assaults, and these are things that are completely against the Bible definitely do not encourage any of that kind of behavior. We see the downfall of femininity, and that is extremely important because this is where a lot of confusion comes in. What I don't want to mislead anyone into thinking is thinking that being strong is inherently a masculine trait, because it's not. And if we look at books in the Bible where it talks about women specifically, we can look in the book of Judges where Deborah, she was leading Israel at the time. She was a prophet, and when they had disputes, they had to go to her in order to get it resolved. The leadership position was commonly associated with a man, but in this chapter we can see that a woman was holding that role. So the Bible is not saying that women are weak, not on a spiritual, mental, or a physical level. But Deborah still had a husband. Deborah still followed that order that God ordained her to be in. Another example of powerful women in the Bible, especially in places of leadership, can be like Esther, where she submitted to her husband, and by submitting to her husband, her requests were still fulfilled because she followed the natural order that God ordained her to be in. Like I said, submission is not instantly a weakness. It's not instantly a negative thing, but it has been made negative due to men weaponizing certain scriptures in the Bible, such as women are to be quiet, women cannot teach or preach, and they will tell you these kind of verses without giving you any context. Paul talks about Priscilla. She was one of the deacons, which the deacon would normally be a male position. So if women were not able to teach, then how was Priscilla able to help Paul spread the good news, right? So those are those things where you have to read the Bible and not allow somebody to tell you what the Bible say. Even with me, fact check me and make sure that what I'm saying is accurate. And if I make a mistake, then don't hesitate to correct me down below in the comments. I'm 100% open to that. The journey in softening yourself as a woman comes from when you start to identify what made you so guarded in the first place. Even if we look at this on a relationship level, you have to ask yourself, am I giving my man space to be a man, or am I trying to control everything? What do I mean by that? There's a stereotype that, women think they're always right. And as somebody that used to always think like my way was the best way. Sometimes it's not. Sometimes your way is not the best way. Sometimes his way is better. Sometimes his way is smarter. And it's not that you cannot make suggestions. Like, the Bible do not say that you cannot suggest anything to your husband. It just says things like respect the natural order so that y'all look stronger together as a unit. What do I mean by that? If he makes a mistake on the outside, I'm not gonna not follow his lead in public because he can become embarrassed. And we see this in the book of Esther with Queen Vashti and the king, how she didn't listen to him and made an embarrassment out of him in front of his whole kingdom. Nobody would take him serious. When you are in partnership, in a relationship, y'all supposed to work together. Now, you do something, I'm not going to say anything. I'm not going to open my mouth and publicly rebuke you about it. But when we get in that car, hey, that probably wasn't the best way. You should have did that. That's keeping placement. That's right is right and wrong is wrong. As you're together in a relationship, you both got to help each other with that. That's going to cause fights between you and him. And to avoid all of that, just follow the natural order. There's a time and place for everything. So one of my favorite verses in the Bible when discussing submission is 1 Corinthians chapter 11 verse 11. And that wasn't intentional, but nevertheless, in the Lord, woman is not independent of man, nor is man independent of woman. For as woman came from man, also man is born of woman, but everything comes from God. Why is that so significant when we're talking about submission? It's because it embraces the natural order that God ordained us to be in, while also saying that one is not any less significant than the other. Both are important to each other. Are there certain roles that we take on? Absolutely. And I'll talk about that in another video. The Bible is not saying that you should be treated less than, because oftentimes people will associate submission to weakness, belittling, insignificance, and that's not true. Oh, another thing I want to make mention to is I made a video on why I started veiling, which you can watch. Click somewhere on the screen. I'll have it up there. And I do want to backtrack on something that I said. So when I was talking about modesty, right, I didn't include in there that it is still the male's job to move his eyes away from lust. There is a verse in the Bible that talks about the man being in control of that. But what I mean on the female portion is that we still have to be accountable in the way that we dress, because you know you look good, you know you are pretty. No one is saying you can't be that or can't be confident in that. You can be very confident in that, but you don't have to show it. Like, you do not have to show the whole world what you have. You don't. Like, I know it's popular in culture now. Like, and I feel like there's a false or delusional status associated with doing things like that. But in the end, all you get is exposed. You're exposed. It may feel positive in that moment because of the admiration and praise that you're getting from what people are saying to you. But in the end, is that the only thing that makes you? Do that make sense? Like, is that the only thing that is attributed to your character? No, you can be so much more than that. And modesty is a beautiful thing. Like, literally in my journey of dressing modestly, I've got nothing but you are so pretty. Like, nothing but like respect, like pure respect. So I wanted to clear that up. Like, yes, men, you still have to do your part, but women, we have to hold ourselves accountable and do our part too. I had my one-on-one talk with the women in the first portion of this video. Now I want to talk to the men and just say that the way that you act and the way that you carry yourself as a man will impact how much a woman will submit to you. And I really encourage you to read the Bible and learn what God has ordained you to be as a man. Submission is a beautiful thing. Having someone listen to you is a beautiful thing. Now that I'm walking in my feminine nature as I'm supposed to, in the way that God wants me to do it, is beautiful. So I can only imagine what it would feel like as a man to walk in the nature that you are supposed to. You're reading the Bible. I want you to, really pay attention to some of the characters in there. And if you start to relate to some of those characters, then you kind of know what you need to change, right? I'll use an example. Since we're talking about submission, the character of Jezebel, she's a very controlling woman. She's a very powerful woman. She has a lot of influence. She makes the decisions. Like, kind of one of those people that wear the pants in the relationship. She knows how to use her seduction to her benefit. If this sounds familiar to somebody that you know or have been around, or any female that you're talking to, that's the Jezebel spirit. Beware, because along with Jezebel comes Ahab. Who is Ahab? Ahab is somebody that when he's presented with a conflict, he just gives up on it. He doesn't wear the pants in his relationship. When things don't go his way, he instantly goes to complaining and crying about it. In this story, he's in a sense a weak leader. Like, he has no control over his wife. He has no control over any of the affairs. She is taking control of all of that. It's the complete opposite how God had it ordained. I'll just put it this way. You'll start to see these pairs in couples a lot, and because they don't understand that they're spirits, and how to get rid of those spirits, or not rebuking those spirits. And by rebuking, I mean you need to nip that in the bud. Or if they listen and change their ways, then you are rebuking that spirit. If they don't, that's possession. If they don't listen to you, I highly suggest moving out the way. But we look to you, men. So if you do something that is careless, if you act out of recklessness, if all you do is drink and smoke and you're not ever in a sober mindset, it's hard to listen to you. It's hard to submit to you, because I'm insecure in you as a leader. When you do not do what you're supposed to do as a man, as a woman, I'm stressed, I am overwhelmed, I'm now combative, I'm very masculine. And who wants to be with a masculine female? Who wants to be in a relationship where it's constantly combative? There's no more balance anymore. What does that make you feel like as a man? And if it doesn't make you feel good, then what are you going to do to change that, right? Because it's not like we are not aware of our faults. I know my faults. My man knows his faults. But the way that we work together is by actively working on those faults. I'm not no marriage counselor. I'm not no relationship influencer. I'm not trying to be. But if we live how the Bible asks us to live, things could be so much simpler, happier. Talk to the Black community specifically. Y'all, we come from extreme generation of trauma. The spirit of pride usually come in through abuse. And when we look at that, we look at slavery. I'm going a little bit too deep. In the Black community, when we look at the hood, men are not raised to respect females, and females are not raised to embrace modesty. You see this a lot. If you go to the hood, you're going to see somebody with all their assets out. Literally their whole body on display. You're going to see men that think it's cool or okay to have all the hoes. And this is nothing but revolving cycle. And this is why we cannot embrace love the way that we should embrace it in the Black community. On top of that, we have the music that is promoting some of these behaviors. We have the females listening to music that is very heavily filled with the Jezebel spirit, and therefore thinking that that is an okay way to be. Biblically, when we look at witchcraft, it is mental manipulation. That's what that means. So as you're consuming this content, whether it's TV, whether it is music, you are inherently taking on some of those characteristics, and you're slowly becoming okay with it. When you no longer feel conviction in your heart no more, when you no longer feel guilt, when you no longer hear that voice like, I don't think that's the right way to go. That's the point of possession, okay? People that are possessed, they're likely not going to watch this whole video because they don't want to hear it. That's the spirit. It's definitely work needed from both partners. I will say that. When you submit to God and when you submit to each other, it is a beautiful thing. All right, bye.